Welcome back to We Are Childfree, the podcast that inspires you to live your best child-free life. I'm Zoe.
And I'm James, and we are Childfree.
Where are we right now, James?
We are in beautiful Bosnia and Herzegovina at a family-owned winery. We are looking out on their vineyards. They let us stay with the van and welcomed us with a couple of glasses of wine.
Yeah, it's a really good plan, isn't it?
Yeah, they saw us coming.
They come with a couple of glasses of wine, free wine, and then we end up taking a few bottles. Mm-hmm. But it's so beautiful here. This is our second time in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we're going to come back, absolutely. It's so green and luscious. We're looking out on meadows and mountains. The people are so friendly. So it's one of those hidden gem locations, I really feel like. Really close to Croatia as well. I think Dubrovnik is only a couple of hours from here.
Yeah, so from what we can work out, you should not be going to Dubrovnik or Croatia. There's too many tourists already.
It's so busy and pricey.
Yeah, pop over to the border and come to Bosnia instead.
The one thing I will say, the downside of being at this beautiful location, my hay fever is going bonkers. James, you're going to have to do some some removal of lots of sneezes, and we'll probably have some blooper reel, I'm sure, of how many sneezes are going to be coming.
I'll do a sniffle cut. It's like
Please.
ASMR, right? I don't know much about ASMR, but like the stereotype isn't. Yeah, but are they like
sneezes part of it?
Soft sneezes.
I tell you, if there are, I'll be a millionaire.
That's the pivot. That's the next grift.
Right? I'm down.
We're here today to do an Ask Whack, which is where we ask our child-free community for their help with a specific problem that one of you all is facing.
I'm excited to hear what have we got today.
All right, go ahead, Zoe. Hit us with it.
My 6-year-old niece asked me yesterday why I don't have any kids. I'm always really aware of how I answer questions from children on the subject, as my standard answer to adults is a jokey, because having kids looks awful. But with kids, I want to get the balance of making sure they know it's a choice they can make one day, but that I still love them even if I don't want my own. I'd love to know how others answer questions from children differently from adults. Great question.
Yeah. Have you ever had to do this yet?
I'm not sure, actually. I don't think so. I'm trying to think, because we kind of removed ourselves from the UK, where all of our family is, all of our nieces and nephews. We don't really, it's almost like I think we're in this other world kind of, that auntie and uncle, James and Zoe, they're just off in this other place. And I don't know whether any of our brothers and sisters have ever broached the subject with them. But I would love a child to ask me this question, because really we don't need to couch it in anything. We treat kids far too much like they don't understand what's going on. So I actually really believe that being honest and open with kids is the best way to handle sensitive conversations, because they don't think there's anything weird or abnormal about not having kids. I don't think they're necessarily thinking, oh, well, maybe some kids might think, oh, well, you don't want me. And maybe that's a really cool learning lesson for them to be like, it's not about you. I love you. It's that I don't want any children myself.
I think last time I saw my brother's family, like the kids are like, they're all, well, nearly or actually teens now. And they were interested in our life and were asking questions. But I don't think they specifically asked about this.
No. I feel like your brother has probably said, oh yeah, no, he's not got any of you terrors, or like he's not going to have any, like I think they're old enough now that, they know we're not having kids, and probably someone else has said that to them. But yeah, it would be cool if they asked us.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're doing this project.
Somebody ask us about it.
They probably know we're doing this project. I'm really looking forward to that time when actually I can have more conversations with my nephews and really talk to them about why we did this and
really groom them into the child-free ideology.
It's funny, isn't it, when we talk about how people are terrified that child-free people are going to encourage other people to not have children. And we hear this rhetoric all the time with gay folks, they're turning people. And the reality is our whole world is set up for heterosexual men and women to have children. That's the ideology, right? Mm-hmm. The ideology is parenthood. a couple, man and a woman, there is an ideology out there already, but no one really talks about it.
No. Yeah, I was just listening to Matt Bernstein's podcast, and honestly, I forget which episode it was because this comes up like every episode.
Right.
Because there's a lot of queer topics and the accusations of being groomers is like everywhere. Oh, he was talking to a couple of people who were homeschooled, and the point came up that like it's not grooming if you're indoctrinating kids into some kind of ideology that the powers that be
Right.
agree with and want perpetuated. Then it's okay. It's just if it's something they disagree with, then it becomes a problem. Anyway, that's a tangent for another day, I think.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? Oh, talking to kids about being child-free.
Yeah, actually, the person who asked this question, I thought what they said was actually really beautifully put, very simple, that I want them to know it's a choice that they can make one day, that I still love them, even if I don't want my own. I think that's like, that could be the great way that you say this to them, that having children is a choice and that each of us get to decide whether this is right for us. If it doesn't feel right, then we don't have to have children. It doesn't mean that I don't love my nieces and nephews like you. I love spending time with you. And in fact, because I don't have my own kids, it means I get to pour all of my love and my energy and my time into looking after you. And that's going to make them feel like they're special, which I think is great. And this is the cool thing about if you do want to have children in your lives, like we know there are child-free folks out there who love that they are these role models in their nieces and nephews and their neighbors' kids, their friends' kids. We can be part of the village if we want to be. And that's a really important role, that we can pour so much more into other people's kids because we don't have our own. That's the reason why we're able to do it.
Yeah. So actually, this is interesting because the first response we're going to share today is from Marlo's, who is an illustrator and author of children's books.
Yes, I know Marlo's.
Yes. So
hey, Marlo's.
Hey there.
I tell children that not everyone will have children when they grow up. Some can't have children. Some don't want to have children. Some don't have them for other reasons. It's important to me that children understand it's a choice that they get to make or don't get to make because their body or life decides for them. I feel this is important because not all people are able to have children. And it's good they know that that can happen, but also that there's enough life to be lived besides parenthood. I almost want to make it as obvious as choosing a certain profession, although I know it's not, so that they can give themselves time to ponder what is right for them instead of thinking parenthood is a given for everyone. Oh, that's amazing, Marlo's. I really love this idea as well of, considering the folks who it's not a choice. Life has dealt them this hand and they have to create their life in another way. They have to find that meaning and that joy in another way. And it's so possible to do that. So let's stop telling everyone that parenthood is the only way, because that sets up so many of us to fail. It sets up the people who have kids expecting that it's just going to fill all those holes. It's going to tick all those boxes. And the reality is you have to do that work to find that happiness and that meaning. Children don't just automatically give it to you. And I think it's really beautifully inclusive to explain that to children. Yeah,
because you might be the first person who's sharing with this kid that's breaking that myth
right,
that everyone has and wants kids.
Yeah.
Like, from what they see, like they only see other kids and parents, probably, unless they have weirdos like us in their life. And
happy weirdo here.
And so as far as they know, like everyone has kids, and that may be where the question is coming from for them. Like, oh, where are your kids?
Yeah.
And so even wanting kids or not may not enter into it. So I think it's important, like what Marlo was saying, that not everyone has kids.
Yeah.
And some people don't want them and some people can't have them.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, that's wonderfully inclusive. And I also like the idea of couching it like another choice, like a choice that they may be aware of, like a profession.
Yes.
I mean, it's weird that we
talk to kids about what are you going to do for your job?
Yeah, what are you
like
going to do?
10.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's so weird. Maybe it's like one of those things. Maybe they got the wrong-headed idea that they'll be like a police person or something from watching too much Paw Patrol, which I think
that's indoctrinating right there.
Hashtag defund Paw Patrol. But they might have an idea of what they want to do when they grow up,
Yeah.
or like what car they want to drive, or
Yes.
like something like that. And if you say those are choices, they're aware that they'll be able to make choices when they get older.
Yeah.
And this is just one of them.
Yeah.
I think frames it as a choice, which is important, but also like maybe takes some of the sort of weight out of
Totally.
it, so
The
they don't
pressure.
the pressure
Yeah.
and the expectations
Yeah.
and everything, and just pop that in their head that it's like you may choose to have
Yes.
kids or to not have kids.
I mean, I love it when we have parents who message us and say, I'm raising my children to know there's a choice. I don't care if they have kids or not. I want them to be happy. And if that's without kids, then go for it. And I just think that's exactly the kind of parenting that we need. We should not be having children and telling them that they need to do exactly what we did, that there's only one path to that happiness. We should be allowing children to be whoever they want to be, do whatever they want to do, because there is no one path for all of us. So I'm just so happy that we have parents out there who are doing that kind of educating and raising the next generation to know there's a choice. Because gosh, if we could have had people realizing that this is a choice, we would have so many more happier people, because we see it in the world. We see people who have been pushed and pressured into living lives that they didn't want. And that can only really lead to unhappy people.
And unhappy children.
Yes.
The next couple of people we heard from work with children, so maybe they've had like more experience of this than we do. So yeah, tell us what Nanny Shars
So
says.
Nanny Shars, she says, I'm a nanny that doesn't want my own children, and I always tell the children, I choose not to be a mummy because I like helping your mummy raise you.
That's nice, isn't it?
That's so lovely. Yes. And I love this idea because it again is reinforcing that it shouldn't just be on the shoulders of one person, and predominantly that's the mother's shoulders. This is about a village of people. What we have right now with parenting is isolating people, and it's isolating women especially. It's saying when you have kids, you're going to be sacrificing your life, your time, your energy, your body, everything, and you're going to be doing all of that, and you're probably going to have a full-time job as well. That is not how we used to raise children. We used to raise children with so many other people helping us. We had a literal village around us helping us, and through industrial capitalism, we have just forced people and families into these small, isolated islands. No wonder people are struggling. No wonder mothers especially are breaking under this weight. And I just love that we are able to start showing people that this is actually going to take more than one person. It should take more than one person to raise a child.
And that it's a job. That's
Right.
what I like about what
Yeah.
Shars says and what Marlo's was saying earlier, is like you're framing it in the context of not only a choice that you can make, but a job that you choose to do.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's a thing that gets not, I was going to say lost, but actually deliberately kept out of the conversation.
Right.
Is the work involved and any of the downsides. And lots of people would want kids to just both experience all the joy that they can, which is great, but also present like parenting and looking after kids and being in a family as just 100% joy all the time. And that's not helpful.
No.
Obviously, we don't need to get into like the drudgery of what it is like, especially to be a mother with these kids. But the idea that like, just the idea of raising children, that doesn't enough enter into the conversation about having kids. You like have kids. It's something you
have a baby. When you
and it gives you fulfillment. But then the actual role of raising of the kids, obviously that's something a nanny is super aware of because that's their role.
Yes.
And they're there to help the mother with that. But to kind of introduce like the sense of like, I'm going to say labor, it sounds really rough. Getting into that with kids. Obviously you don't.
Oh, no. Yes. No, she had a beautiful way of saying it.
Yeah, you don't want to go full Marxist on them yet. That's something for the pre-teen years.
Right.
But yeah, we also heard from someone else called Sarah Beth, who has some thoughts on this.
Okay, so Sarah says, I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I work with children, preteens, teenagers, and adolescents. At some point, the question of do you have children comes up. Even though I don't have biological or adopted kids, nor am I a caregiver, my answer is yes. When a child words it like this, I say I have about 17 plus kids that I work with here. I see their lovely little brains think about my response, and they word the question in a different way. But are you a mom? No, I'm not a mom. I work with so many children here that I don't want or need my own. That's okay though, because I love working with you. Oh, that's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I really love that. I mean, that's it. Kids are just so, they're innocent. They haven't had any toxic ideas yet. I mean, they're as much as society or maybe parents are trying, you know, it's like they're just so innocent in their questions, and really, yeah, to be able to explain that this is the way that Sarah is helping kids. She is not a mom, but she's still loving and caring for children. So she's a mom in a different way. That's a really cool thing. I can't even imagine working with children as a child-free person or a childless person.
Working with 17
With
plus
17,
kids.
but the questioning, because we get so many DMs from people who work with children they are the nurturers and the carers, and they've given their lives over to look after other people's children. And, you know, the questions, some people just assume that they can't look after children because they don't have their own, which is ridiculous. It's like, just because I haven't physically birthed a child does not mean I can't understand how to care for a child, nurture a child. Also, if I've done the degrees and the education to get this qualified job, people make these assumptions that child-free folks are somehow these empty, cruel, cold robots who can't look after anything.
And I am.
I was
but
going to say.
Not...
But...
I saw you looking.
I mean, dogs, you're amazing with dogs. No, you're great around kids. You're great. But, you know...
But it's different.
But that's because we don't have our own.
Yeah, it's different being the weird uncle.
Oh, God, yeah. If we had our own, I know I would be anxious. I've got to be perfect at it. I would, just put that kind of, I'd be scared that something's going to happen to them. When I'm an auntie, I get to do the fun stuff, and I get to let go of that and be the person, like their safe space. You can come and talk to me about anything. I'm not going to judge you or need you to eat a certain vegetable, do certain homework. I'm not going to do that. I've got a different role, which I think is important to have in children.
You're a cool aunt.
I'm one of them cool aunts. But not everyone needs to be the cool aunt. Not everyone needs to be that. It's just because many of us, many in the community, we're not nurturers. We don't want to have that role. And that's absolutely valid as well. That's the other side of this, where because we're women, apparently we should all just be automatic nurturers and love and want to have children and love being around them. And that's just patriarchy putting us in a box, making sure that women are happy with their lot, which is, we're going to tell you that you're the one who should stay home and look after the kids because you're really good at it. You know, men, they're really good at decision making and leading and positions of power. That's what they're really good at. It's just another way to keep women from striving for leading and changing the world. And so we have to always be mindful of that toxic idea as well. I really love my nephews and my nieces. Do I love being around random children? Hell no. I don't really like being around random kids.
And neither do parents.
That's
we
true.
always hear that from the parents in our lives, that they couldn't give two shits about other people's kids.
I mean, some people, like a lot of parents can kind of like whinge about other people's kids. And I'm like, okay, so you also don't like other people's children, or, but yet they can't say that out loud. To us, we're like the safe space. They could whinge about kids to us, because we're not going to judge them. So there's a lot of hiding true feelings, and because parents, they're worried about they're going to be shamed, and mothers especially are worried about they're going to be shamed. And then child-free folks, we just have to fit inside of another box, and we have to be careful about not painting all women as nurturers and carers. So
Yeah, let's hear from someone who has no time for that bullshit. In her words,
There it is.
Mary
Okay.
Katherine, who wrote about us for the New York
Oh,
Times.
Mary, yes.
So shout outs. We love
Okay.
you.
So Mary Catherine says, I always say because I don't want to. Same for adults. Children are much more perceptive than people give them credit for. Children are often able to say things profoundly unadorned with bullshit in a much more honest way than adults are often able to. I try to speak to them without condescension.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just be
that's it.
straightforward. Like,
That's it.
I think maybe we worry too much about this from time to time. And I think because you're used to sort of justifying yourself, it's normally an adult coming to you with this kind of
Right.
stuff. And they have their own agenda and biases and stuff like already baked in. And kids, hopefully, don't have that yet. So they're just genuinely curious. They're asking you about this thing. You could just answer them.
Absolutely. We pretend like kids can't understand complicated things. And yeah, we have to simplify things. It's better to try and just be honest instead of creating more lies. And then it just confuses kids, I think, half the time. Because I do think, yeah, they can understand a lot when we give them credit.
Yeah. And this thing can be as complicated or as simple as you want to make it.
Yep.
Or you think they can handle, or you can get into it when they ask why 1,000 times about it, which they love to do.
Yep.
Like, you start with what Mary Catherine's saying and be like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And they are free to ask why, and they will. And then you can absolutely get into it. Drop some feminism on them.
Absolutely. No, yeah, it's never too early to start.
We'll radicalize them young.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just love the idea of talking so openly and honestly about your choice and normalizing that as a way to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And normalizing women being different. We're not all the same. You can say like, I love you, but I don't like other people's children, or I don't want to be a mother. Like, you can be honest with them because they need to understand that we're not all the same person and women aren't all the same. Yeah, be open and honest. I sometimes find though, yeah, if you're open and honest, it's like the parents of the kids are like, oh, I wouldn't have said it that way. And it's like, I mean, you know,
We've got, yeah, I guess this is part of not being their parents.
might have to deal with the fallout.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with the fallout.
We just drop a bomb and
So
just walk away.
I look like when I talk to my nieces and nephews, like obviously I think about what I'm saying. It's not just no filter. Like, it's good to be thoughtful.
Right.
Because I think especially if they're impressionable, think about what you're going to say.
Yes.
But then don't hold back.
No, this reminded me though, I did get a DM from someone who this scenario came up. So she told the child, this was a friend's child, she told the child that she was child-free and she didn't want children. And her friend actually got upset with her, saying that I don't want you to talk about being child-free in front of my child. So I said to this person, I'm not sure you should be friends with someone who basically is seeing your life choice as wrong. There's a lot to delve into that. I would really want to know from my friend, what do you actually think about my life and my choices? I think her friend was very religious, and she in her head believes that everyone should be having kids. But the reality is, so this person was scared about then, do I have to hide this in front of her kids? And I would say you should never have to hide who you are. If your friends don't support who you are, and that means you have to be another person in front of children because there's some problem here being child-free in front of children. And obviously there are going to be some people who really believe that we are indoctrinating children by telling them there's a choice. That is something that people absolutely will believe.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's like nonsense, obviously.
Yeah.
Just for the idea that we could give two shits about what anyone else does. I want people to know there's a choice.
Yeah.
Because that's good, whether you take that choice or not. To treat it like a choice.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I would say that, yeah, people might have a problem with. But also, without knowing the particulars of your friend's situation and stuff, but if they are part of a religious community, this is a bit that like annoys me as well, is that there's no room for dissent or alternatives or anything. If you are raising someone inside of a certain religion and maybe that spills over into their like home life, school life, whatever, like they are getting the message.
Yeah,
They're getting
absolutely.
the pronatalist message. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You can stand for one person to say something different. And if your kind of ideology and your beliefs and your system, if that's going to crack under the weight of the opinions of one person, then you have to wonder about the foundations that you're standing upon.
But that's the thing. They are terrified that if people know there's a choice, that they will choose not to have kids. It's almost like, patriarchy and pronatalism, they need us to believe there is no other life path. There is no other choice. Because when we look at how hard parenthood is in our current times, of course people are going, I don't think I can do this with rising house costs, with working 2 jobs, with no healthcare if I'm in America. Of course, people would look at this and go, I don't actually think this is going to be possible for me to do it. So you know what? There's a choice here. I'm going to opt out of this. I'm not going to add on another thing for me to worry about. And that's why the powers that be, they are terrified that people actually will realize there is a choice here, that you can find happiness and meaning without children. And they want it to be quiet. They want us to be as quiet as possible. And some people do not want us even saying, we are child-free. We're child-free by choice. They don't want their kids recognizing there is a choice, which is scary and fucked up. And I hate that we live in this world.
I hate that we live in this world too.
I just want it to be, I want people to understand that we're all different. And I know that sounds made up of like rainbows and unicorns, but that's the reality.
That's literally...
we are all different
Yeah,
with different experiences.
of
And
course.
if you want to believe in a religion, go for it. If you want to live your life a certain way and it's not hurting anyone else, that's the caveat. If you believe in a religion and it doesn't hurt anyone else, go for it. But if you believe in something that is going to hurt other people,
or kind of work under the like assumption that everyone is the same or should be the same or should act and believe and say and be the same things. No, you can't. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't reflect reality. So you plus the other people around you are going to end up miserable because you can't. I mean, you can control people like that,
right?
But that's not the utopia you think it is.
Yeah, and it just frustrates me that we are already indoctrinating children into this one life path, which is you've got to have kids. You've got to have the job, you've got to have the house and the partner, and all. This is all indoctrinating children. We're already doing it. I saw this video on Instagram, this 70-year-old guy, and he was saying, I've never had anyone from the queer, the trans community rock up at my door and try to change my gender. I've never had anyone from the LGBTQ community say, hey, do you want to be gay? I've had people coming from Mormons, Christians. I've had people of all of these religions come to my door trying to tell me that I'm going to go to hell. Those are the people who are actually trying to force and pressure you into becoming something that you don't want to be. Child-free people are not doing that. We're not trying to force anyone into living our life if they don't want to. That's not what we're about. No, I want people and children, I want them to grow up and to choose the life that they want. So and this is something that we have confused about us all the time, that we're telling people somehow not to have children. That's not what we're about. We're not anti-natalists. We actually want people who are passionate about raising humans to have them and to have the support that they deserve, to raise them well, because that's how we're going to have a happy society. What we also want is for child-free people to get the same support and the same respect. People like J.D. Vance and Trump, they don't want to hear child-free people saying, well, actually, I'm not trying to force anyone to not have kids. No. They don't want us to say that. They want it to be us versus them.
Yeah, it's that thing about like how people accuse other people of doing the thing that they're doing.
Yes.
So like
exactly.
In their heads, they can't picture a world in which the people who don't agree with them, there's so many negatives in that statement. They think that the people on the other side, which of course we don't see it as, well, no, we're on the other side to Trump and J.D. Vance.
We're on the right side, yeah.
But like the people who disagree with them, they can only imagine that they're like trying to recruit and convert and groom people into a particular way of life because that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But we're not trying to do that.
No.
We're literally just saying, like, if we don't want to have kids, let us not.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
is so
Stop pressuring us and judging.
radical to people. Just let us not give birth to kids that we don't want.
Yeah, it's a wild idea, isn't it?
Bonkers. Yeah. So here's Maren, who's a old friend of ours.
Yeah, we photographed her in Berlin.
Yeah.
Hi, Maren.
Hey.
When I was 41 and my then 8-year-old niece asked me why me and my partner weren't having kids, I tried to argue that I was too old, to which she replied, "But you're still bleeding."
So that's a German kid. So if you thought kids were direct,
yeah, wow.
speak to a German kid.
After that, I just told her I didn't want to have kids of my own, and she actually seemed perfectly fine with that answer. No judgment whatsoever. Kids can handle it way better than most adults, which holds great potential for future, more tolerant generations. That's it. It's tolerance. It's raising the next generation to understand diversity and be tolerant of people who are different to you, to not fear them, to embrace people and let them live the life that they want to live. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong. We're all the same, but we're all different, and that's cool.
Yeah. And I think they are getting that message. And I think that maybe is what worries conservatives and fundamentalists as well, that they know that this truth is coming in, is cracking through their lies. I'm going to try not to go on another rant about all of that.
So hard, lovelies.
But yeah, that's a nice way to look at it, be like hopeful. Like the very fact that, I don't know what, I mean, Zoe and I famously don't remember a single thing about our childhoods because we don't.
I mean, I remember some things. I don't have that photographic memory where people will be like, "Oh yeah, when I was like 3, I ate this biscuit and it like hurt my tooth." And I'm like, I can barely remember last week.
Yeah,
How
we just don't look back at all, including all the way back to our childhoods. But I definitely did not have a conversation with anyone like this. Like the opportunity to have a conversation about like why, to this person who is different in any kind of way, to just be a kid and ask like, oh, why is that? Like,
I mean,
that's amazing. That's a great opportunity to have.
Yeah, like I think like it's much more likely that you'd hear your parents talking about, oh, this weird lonely person who doesn't have kids, or oh, they're the like, oh yeah, Uncle Bob is like the weird one. Especially the women in the families who don't have kids, it would be much more like, yeah, they're alone and
a source of pity.
Oh,
for them.
absolutely, absolutely. And what I love hearing is when people say, yeah, I had this amazing auntie who didn't have kids and she was traveling all over, loving her life. I love hearing those stories.
Yeah, we'll share the story in the show notes from Mary Gay,
yes,
who wrote us when she was like 79, turning 80. So she'll be even older now.
Right.
But she talked about her aunt, she called Aunt Blue.
Yes, yeah.
Who was just an absolute badass and did exactly what she wanted her whole life. Like 100 years ago now, and inspired Mary Gay and let her know that like she could have a fulfilling life without kids, and she did. And like being able to be that kind of role model, that's amazing.
We need those role models. That's why we're doing this project, because those positive representations they stay with us, because you see everyone else doing maybe the same thing, and then you're told, oh yeah, if you don't have kids, you're going to be sad and alone. Your life is going to be meaningless. And then you have this one role model in your life who was bucking that trend, who actually was out there loving their life, living it to the fullest. And you remember how that impacted you. And you were like, hang on, this person, they're doing it. And when you can see that someone else is doing it, it inspires you and it empowers you to go like, well, if they're doing it, I can do it. And that's why we share child-free stories. That's why we share stories from people who are out there living their lives unashamedly. Whoa, can you hear that? There's a So this is again one of the positives of being in the meadow.
Yeah, was that a wasp?
I think it was a little wasp that just came by. You might have heard it on the mic. Maybe that was a child-free wasp. Who knows? Coming to reminisce with us. We need those representations. Children need to see that kind of positive representation. And I love it when I hear from people who've found our website, found our accounts, read our stories, and I just hope our stories are going to get into young people's hands so that they can see their lives in many different ways and be like, it's okay if you feel different. It's okay if you envisage your life in a different way. So I have hope because we are seeing more of that representation now.
Yeah. And I think having more of these conversations as well.
Yes.
And Julia, who we actually know from back in Berlin as well, she recommended like a bit of a script to follow. So here's what she would actually say, or maybe she has said to kids who've asked her about this.
Raising kids is really hard work. That's how I know that your parents love you very much, because they chose to have you and they're great at being parents. But that's a choice everyone can make when they're an adult, even you when you grow up. I've chosen not to have kids, but I'm so happy to be your aunt. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Julia. I love that also. She's putting it back to the kid that even you when you grow up. So it's already putting that idea in their head that it's okay if you don't have them as well, or can't have them.
Yeah,
That's an important thing to know.
Yeah, you get to make a choice, or if it's not a choice, like you get to have kids or not have kids. And those are kind of like neutral and fine.
Yeah.
And also this idea that, yeah, raising kids is hard work. Like seeding that in a kid's head is great. And being like, I know your parents love you very much because they do that hard work of having a kid. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Being able to, tell kids like, this is something that it's hard. So don't take it lightly, because that's the thing that terrifies me when people, they don't think about it. And it's not like maybe in the past, my parents, they told me like, there was no consideration. There was no choice. It was literally, this is happening. We don't even have to talk about it, which is wild to me. And they said they made it work. Yes, it was difficult and financially, but it feels like it's a different kind of parenthood back then for the boomers than we have right now. And I think people are really struggling because of the way that we have set up our world with capitalism, and it's kind of breaking people. And what I don't want is anyone to take the decision of having kids lightly. If you have that passion and that desire and you see yourself in that role and you're willing to make the sacrifices, then that tells you that you're ready to do this. But if you have that kind of doubt, if you think that maybe this would be too difficult, and you should listen to those feelings and emotions. And kids need to know from a very young age, because they can have kids from a very young age. Like, thankfully, we're seeing teenage pregnancy go down. That is one massive positive.
Yeah.
But we know there are the powers that be, there are governments that actually see that as a negative.
Yeah, they'd love to reverse that. They're
wild.
They're going
wild.
I mean, there are too many places where teen marriage is still permitted.
Right.
And yeah, the Trump government we're talking about, they call it education, but again, it's indoctrination. They've suddenly become champions of sex education, but the kind of sex education that will teach young girls how to get pregnant.
Whew.
And to look at the stats around teen pregnancy going down and being like, oh, a bit of a problem is mental.
It just blows my mind. And that's the reason why we have to have kids understand from a very young age. This is a choice that you can make. Don't be pressured by anyone else into doing this. But this is what governments, like in America, they're doing. They're removing education. We can be the educators.
Yeah.
But if they silence us, if they silence our platforms and our voices, then who is going to tell those kids? Because that's why we need child-free people, to be loud and proud and show others. That's why if someone asks me, do you have kids? I'm child-free by choice. I'm as loud as I can be, as vocal as I can be, to help as many people as I can be. And really, that's what we need. We need the people who have the voice to step up and try. And all of these moments that we have in our lives, and they can be random moments with strangers, they can be with our loved ones, with our nieces and nephews, to use your voice and educate, because we don't know what the future holds with our actual education, with governments, and how they are going to start really seeing child-free people when they're talking about declining birth rates and that. So we just have to be very, very aware and on it now.
Yeah. And take the opportunities to speak to kids about this.
Yeah.
Because they may not have gotten the full download of all the pronatalist indoctrination just yet. They're also far more likely to just ask you these questions straight up.
Right.
And yeah, I guess like people are saying here, answer honestly and be truthful with them about it and let them know they have a choice and that this exists within the world of choices that they'll have ahead of them and once they become an adult.
Someone in our member community actually last online hangout spoke about how they would love to go into schools and educate kids. And I think that would be an amazing thing to do. I just don't know. I don't know whether, again, we are going to be seen as indoctrinating. That's the crazy thing, is that, no, we're just going and talking about choice. But yeah, there are people that don't want it. But I would love that. I'd love that to happen somehow. So if anyone has any ideas how we can make that happen, we have people who want to do this. They want to go into schools, but you're going to need a very progressive school to understand. This is not about telling people to not have kids. This is about telling them that it's okay if they don't have kids. But yeah, we just have to keep pushing and keep using our voices. And thank you everyone who messaged. Those comments and advice were incredible. We're always so grateful that we have such an informed, amazing community who can help us to, share all of these incredible insights.
Absolutely.
So thank you to everyone. Thank you, lovelies.
Thank you.
Who shared.
Yeah, and if you have a question for us or for the community, write us at hello@wearechildfree.com with Ask Whack in the subject line. Members of our community get first priority with their questions. And yeah, we love to hear from you. And we love to put your questions to the Childfree Hive Mind and find out what everyone thinks, because we learn as much as you do through these episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you again to our wonderful, wonderful members. You are the beating heart of We Are Childfree. You help us create podcast episodes like this. Help us go and see people, to take their portrait, to share the stories, to create our life-changing work. So if you also want to support our work, get lots of cool, exclusive content and bonuses, then you can join our member community at wearechildfree.com/join.
And thank you so much for listening to We Are Childfree.
Yeah, thank you, lovelies.
Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye. They can only imagine.
Just clear.
Like, hopefully.